I'm Tim Lyons, and I'm originally from Cork City. I was born in Turner's Cross in Cork City in 1937. At the moment, I'm living in Galway, but I've been between Cork and Galway. I've been lots of other places in England and Dublin and various places. I lived in North County Cork until I was 12, and then in 1950 I moved to the town of Wolverhampton in the west, in the Midlands of England, an area called the Black Country, which is around Birmingham and Wolverhampton, Staffordshire actually. And I lived there until I was about 21. And then I came back to live in Ireland. I lived in Dublin for 3 years. And in 1963, I moved again to England and I went to London. I spent about eight years in London. And then my next move was in 1970 and I moved to County Clare. I spent 16 years there. And then I'm in Galway now over 20 years. So that was probably my last move to Galway. So
you were telling me, you were saying it yesterday about when you were living in England, you were aware of the whole Child Ballad collection, weren't you?
Yeah, I became aware that the Child Ballads, let me think, between 1960 and 63 or 62 maybe, I became aware that there was such a thing as Child Ballads. At first I didn't know what the hell they were, but then I made the acquaintance of the Scottish playwright and singer and songwriter Ewan MacColl, and he was married to Peggy Seeger, the American singer, and I used to go to their house and record Irish songs. They had a large collection of Irish ballads and songs, and they said that I could have any of them anytime I wanted. So I used to go out from time to time, and I had a small little tape recorder with a reel-to-reel tape recorder with 3-inch reels. You can have very small reels, and he used to let me use a room at the top of his house that was kind of a mini studio on the way, you know. And he had a huge machine there with an upright tape machine, and the tapes must have been, I'd say there was 10, 12, about 14 inches diameter, the tapes, great big tapes, you know. And he had his collection in there, and I was able to record. Yeah, the huge quality as well, these things, you know. But and I got all the Irish ballads from Ulster, Connacht, and everywhere. Not all of them, but a lot of the stuff that he had recorded off BBC programs and all that, you know. Archival stuff, you know. And so there was a vast collection of stuff. I didn't succeed in learning only about a small percentage of them. The collection was too big to learn the entire contents, you know. But then I became aware of the Child Ballads through a club called the Singers Club. Now, Ewan MacColl used to run that with Peggy Seeger every Saturday night in a pub lounge in a pub in London. And they used to sing Child Ballads there. And then he'd explain about child, etc., etc., you know. And of course, then you'd start talking to other people about them, and I became aware that they were quite well known. And then in later years, I got the chance to buy the volumes of Child Ballads. But I don't sing I don't sing them very much because there's no call in this country for child ballads really, but they seem to have slipped in here in the tradition, because I was singing songs off the Irish collection that I had learned, and they turned out in later years to be child ballads. I learned the one that I was singing was Captain Butterburn's Courtship, and that was recorded somewhere in Ulster, and I liked it, and I learnt it, and I used to sing it around the clubs in England. I never knew it was a child ballad, and then, as I say, I realised later it was a child ballad. And I was yes, and then amongst the recordings that he let me have were songs by Elizabeth Cronin, the great traditional singer from around Macroom area, or Ballavourne, I'm not sure which part of the country, but she was collected by Seamus Ennis in the 1940s and 30s, I suppose. And she was singing a song that I really liked as well. It was called Lord Gregory. And that turned out to be a child ballad. The original name of that would be The Lass of Rocklisle, spelled R-O-C-H. And it's a Scottish, originally a Scottish piece of history, you know. But that was sung in Ireland as Lord Gregory, and had its own air, its own Irish air, you know. So I was singing child ballads, and I didn't even know they were child ballads, you know. It's a funny thing, yeah. I don't know how correct I am about this, but I mean, it's possible that a lot of those songs were brought to Ireland by English and Scottish soldiers, you know. And thousands and thousands of soldiers passed through the country. And it's highly likely that could be a source, you know.
And we've adapted them though as well, though, with our own airs.
Oh yeah, we made them our own, and you see, a great percentage of those child ballads are in the Scottish dialect, you know, Lowlands, the Lowlands dialect, which is now officially a language, and I suppose the Irish people didn't understand the dialect, so what they done was they used other words instead. And in some cases, in the wrong words, you know. So you get a lot of incorrect variants in these songs, and it's because of probably because of the dialect, you know. Trying to interpret them and then interpreting them wrongly, you know. All very interesting stuff, you know.
Do you think the framework of the kind of the concert, the whole idea, is interesting for singers or for listeners, that you can go hear 8 singers sing this big repertoire of songs?
Yes, it's certainly a new thing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but this might be the very first time that kind of concert has been held, because there's no interest now in child ballads in this country, as far as I know, except in minority situations, maybe festivals, song festivals, etc. There might be a little interest, but there's a lot of people unaware of the man-child, you know, and so there's no interest. There's no interest in his collections, because they don't know about him. Yeah. In England it's different. England and Scotland are well aware of him, because they've been following his stuff for years upon years, you know. But I think it's a good idea, all right, to reintroduce him to Ireland. There's hundreds and hundreds of songs contained in Child that are not known here. probably never sung here, you know. And I mean, it's understandable because they're complicated in that they're in Scottish dialect. There'd be no call for them unless you had a glossary of Scottish terms. But then who's going to be looking at a glossary of terms while there's a singing song? It doesn't make sense. So they're just not popular here. Not popular.
I am a king's daughter, that's a straight from Cappoquin, in search of Lord Gregory. Oh God, may I find him. The rain beats at my yellow locks, and the dew wets me still. The babes call